Psychosis. I am your host, TJ Bowser, and joining me as always is the very handsome, very British Mr. Paul Ashford. What's up, buddy?
Hey man, how's it going? Good to be back.
Yes, and I am so excited for this episode. We actually have a special guest today to talk about this week's movie. So without further ado, I shall introduce this man. He is very highly respected in the movie reviewing podcasting community. He is JW from Generation Movie. Here he is, gonna pop him up here. Boom! There you go.
I don't know if I can live up to that. Also, your energy is. Paul and I are on the same energy level. Right? Your energy, like, way the fuck up here, and me, baseline. Also, we're talking about like dead dancing women, so it's
exciting, right? I mean, we gotta get excited. It's Dario Argento, man.
Yeah, and also like the last Technicolor movie.
Yeah,
like the idea that they went to the last Technicolor machine that was working in Rome and made this movie.
And it's just not Technicolor. It's like Technicolor turned up to 11. It's
like Technicolor trying to be Snow White. What it's Technicolor trying to be. It's literally trying to be a cartoon. But I'm very excited to be here from my hosting duties on Generation Movie and Loud and Nerdy from the Indie Escape Network, and we're pleased as punch to be hanging out with you, TJ, is a lot of fun. I have a good time every time you show up. We get loud. We act very American, while Paul will sit there and just be very, very cool and kind of look at us like, "What the fuck is wrong with them?" So I'm down. I'm also wearing my Revenge of the Jedi shirt just because.
Yes,
I still haven't processed James Earl Jones dying.
Yeah.
I'm still working through it. Like the sheer volume of voices. All the good dads and bad dads he was.
Yeah.
Still processing.
It is a big loss for sure. But let's talk about something a little bit more upbeat. Let's talk about our weeks. Paul, start things off.
I also start with me. I have the most boring weeks. Outside of work, I've been watching a lot of movies, as I always do. What have I watched? Man, I've watched some cheesy 80s stuff with the girlfriends. Obviously watched tonight's movie a couple of times as well. I've been watching tons of stuff. I have finally booked tickets for Beetlejuice. I'm going next week. But yeah, man, I haven't been up to. I had amazing pizza. We got the most amazing pizza joint local to us, so we love going there. We went there earlier this week. But ask me next week what I've been up to, because as of Friday, I've got a 3-day film festival I'm going to. And there's like 13, 14 films.
And we're watching
every single one of them. Sorry?
The Keep?
Yeah, The Keep's going to be on there. It's going to be one of them in 35mm. So yeah, next week, man, I'm going to reel out a big list for you.
The Keep is highly
I've been
underrated.
prepping for that all week.
Yes.
I'm super excited, looking forward to it.
Keep is great.
We better get on to...
What was it, 85? That movie is fantastically underrated.
Oh, and
what I always do is when I'm going to see these old movies, I try to track the movies that became of like what they spawned. Because I have a vision in my head that all these filmmakers are going to see movies, and then later on going, I would like to make a movie like that. Right? So the Keep is one of those where anytime you get a movie about World War II horror, you kind of go, like Overlord, what I mean? Like where you're just like, you gravitate towards it.
Yeah.
My week? You want me to do my week?
Yeah, might as well just take it over, man.
I'm going to steal from Paul. So I do movies all the time too. So I do a lot of movies. I actually live with my 8-year-old and 6-year-old nephew. And I was telling you guys before the show, I'm just introducing them to the 99 Mummy with Brendan Fraser. And it's quite funny because, again, they're 8 and they're 6 and they make better judgments than people our age in films. So they're like, hey, we shouldn't touch that book. And they move on. Like, they shouldn't do that. Also, I think movies that need to be talked about. Saw Beetlejuice. Like Beetlejuice, but don't love Beetlejuice.
Okay, that speaks.
But it's I think part of it is just it's a construction problem that I'll talk about at a later date.
Okay.
I also saw Strange Darling, and if anybody has a chance to see Strange Darling, that should be the top of your goddamn list, and don't read anything.
He's got a gun. Hell, I got a gun too. It's just...
Yeah, don't read anything about it. Go in as cold as possible, and just bathe in one of the best psychosexual thrillers ever made.
Ooh.
So, and then
you also watched that Rambo type thing, right?
Rebel Ridge.
Yes.
Rebel Ridge. I'm a huge fan of Rebel Ridge. It is first blood for this generation.
Yes, 100%.
So it's you know, well, the thing about First Blood, right? The thing we don't take into account for First Blood, like it's super cool. It's a great action movie, but it's a social commentary movie too,
on veterans. Yeah,
about veterans being treated mistreated, and about small town sheriffs who are a little big too big for their britches. British term. But Rebel Ridge is the same way. It's got a social commentary heart, but it's also a really good action movie about a Marine vet who comes into post bail for his cousin, who is in this small town being, kind of like put into prison for no reason.
And he has it in cash, right?
He has it in cash.
Yeah.
And so the cops immediately take the cash from him because they're like, "Are you a drug dealer?" He's like, "No, I'm a no." He's like, "I'm not a drug dealer." And then it all kind of crescendos out of place because basically say, "Hey, you can pick up your money in 90 days." And he's like, "But my cousin is going to go to state prison in less than 90 days. And my cousin can't go to state prison because he's part of a bigger drug cartel case. So he has a reason, he has money. And then it just becomes a small town acting incredibly.
It sounds like a good setup,
It's a fantastic setup. It has a really good cast. Aaron Pierce is like a British actor that does American.
That's our main guy?
Yeah, Aaron Pierce is the main character, Terry. Don Johnson plays the scummy lawyer, the scummy sheriff.
Don Johnson's great.
He's fantastic. James Cromwell's in it, which is kind of a hidden surprise in the middle of the movie. James Cromwell shows up and you're like, holy shit, where's the pig? And then Anna Sophia Robb, who was in the Winn-Dixie movie, she's in it. She's become a great young actress that's started out as a kid, and it's 2 hours. It's really well done. They start finding out that he's actually a Marine veteran that teaches a specific kind of martial arts training.
Of course.
He's super dangerous, and they keep on nudging him, like just nudging, just poke. We're going to steal your money. We're going to, and you keep on thinking to yourself, hey, if everything is going to be okay, as long as this and this happens, and then this and this happen, and you're like, holy shit, all hell's going to break loose. And it reminded me very much of First Blood. Yeah. In the sense that, when Stallone's there's one sequence where Stallone's talking to Richard Crenna and he's like, if he had just let me get something to eat, if he didn't treat me like garbage and let me get something to eat, I wouldn't have all his men hung up in the woods, and I wouldn't have a knife at their throat. You know what I mean?
First Blood's a Christmas movie too, right?
It happens around Christmas because there are lights at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a Christmas movie. That's a whole other debate. Gremlins, yes. Die Hard, yes. Batman Returns, definitely yes. I don't know about First Blood though, but like I said, it reminded me of First Blood. It's one of the best movies out there. Also, I'm gonna a shame on Netflix because it's another one of these movies that Netflix has put on that is really good. Yeah. And theoretically would have found an audience.
Yeah, 100%.
And would have packed theaters. You know what I mean?
I feel like if we would have seen this trailer, people would have been like, oh shit.
This looks good. This looks really good. And Don Johnson looks smarmy, like he should. And it's just really well done. And it's by it's by Saulnier, who did The Green Room. So he's not like a fly-by-night director. He's a director that knows exactly what he's trying to do with these movies.
100%.
And Green Room being about neo-Nazis is he's really got a focal point on what's going wrong in the middle of America.
There you go.
Let's talk about what's going wrong in the middle of Switzerland and Germany.
Well, my week's been so. Tomorrow I'm filming an ad for Ford and the football season and all that stuff. So that's going to be fun. Earlier this week, a desk collapsed on me. So I am missing the back of the skin of my left leg. So that's
Ooh.
been terrible. I will show all you video viewers the wrapped up version of the leg.
Oh no.
Yes, it sucks. And I have to hold a camera all day tomorrow and stuff, but that should be a good time. I watched a movie
I
this
don't like
week
injuries.
that I absolutely fell in love with. It's called The Plot Against Harry from 1969. I would consider it like one of the most important American Jewish films that I've ever watched because it is just absolutely fantastic. And I've never seen this perspective of the Jewish community, especially in this era. It's really, really fucking cool. And I totally would like recommend this to anybody who likes comedy, crime movies. It is like an hour and 20 minutes of just awesomeness. There is just so many like jokes, like rewatches help and stuff, but like the acting's awesome, the pacing's awesome, the cinematography is awesome. I couldn't find any problems with the movie, and I hope it's something that Paul and I talk about in the future because I've never heard anybody talk about it.
I've never heard of it until you said.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I think Brian Romer directed it. I think that's his name. It's a pretty awesome movie. I don't want to divulge into the details much, but essentially this guy who was involved in the mob gets out of prison and tries to resume his life after being in prison after X amount of years and kind of finds out things are kind of not the same. He kind of has to adapt, but kind of gets himself involved in a bunch of other stuff because he finds out he has 2 adult daughters. It's wild. The whole thing's wild. But you know what else is wild? This week's movie, which is 1977 Suspiria, directed by one of my favorite directors of all time. That is Dario Argento. Here's his book that came out last year, Fear. This book is awesome. If you have an opportunity to read it, go fucking read it. It completely changed my perspective on Dario Argento. That man struggles, and you can definitely tell that through that struggle, he creates some of the most marvelous art of our time. Suspiria. Directed by Dario Argento, written by Dario Argento and Daria Nicolodi, his wife. That is starring Jessica Harper as Susie, which I believe he cast after watching Phantom of the
Paradise.
Phantom of Paradise by Brian De
Phantom
Palma.
Phantom of Paradise. Fantastic.
Yeah.
She should have gotten more roles because that movie is absolutely astounding.
Phantom of the Mall is also very underrated.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up. There's a TV cut of that movie that people need to talk about more. Stefani Cassi as Sarah, Flavio Bucci as Daniel, Miguel Bose as Mark, Barbara Magnolfi as Olga. She's mean. Aldi Valley as Miss Tanner.
She's mean, even dubbed.
Yes.
Her dubs are even mean.
Joan Bennett as Madame Blanc. I will tell you what, that cast is awesome. And even with the fun dubbing, it just makes it even better because it just has this aura around it, right? It makes the movie feel even more
creepiest
dreamlike.
bunch of people that have ever been put on screen.
Yes.
Like they're all creepy, right down to the little kid in like the fucking Dutch boy outfit. And you're just like, I was waiting for that kid to eat somebody's eyeball.
No, he gets mauled by a dog, maybe.
You know, maybe. Yeah, that's the story.
Yeah.
That they tell the blind guy, your dog attacked somebody. He's been sitting outside for 6 years.
He was up there with the kid from Burial Ground. You know, the one that
super creepy.
Yeah.
Super fucking creepy. Just like you're watching him and he's like, and
not as creepy as the kid from Phenomena.
Okay. Fair.
Lord of the Flies.
But what I would say is like
fucking...
part of the creepiness is the way he's dressed, and then also like the people who are the adults in the house are like ordering him to do things, and you don't know where he's going. He's just like, she's like, go do this, and he gets up and he walks out of frame, and he's walking right into the frame towards the camera, and it's like, I don't know if he's gonna attack the camera or not. I'm not sure. He creeped me the fuck out, that kid.
Yeah.
Paul, do you want to read the plot from my notes or your notes? I don't care.
I only have my notes, so I don't think you sent me your notes.
What the fuck? I don't make me share it with
you. I go for my notes?
Yeah, go for yours.
I have no notes. This should be great.
Have you seen this movie?
It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's not
well,
like
one
of those like
about it, to be fair.
really.
It's okay. Yeah. Susie Banyan is a young American ballet student who flies to Germany to study at the prestigious Tanz Dance Academy. But almost immediately, she encounters paranormal activity. Another girl, Pat Hingle, leaves as she arrives, talking of absurd secrets. Pat is gruesomely murdered that very night. Susie, meanwhile, begins experiencing headaches and fainting spells as more people, students and teachers alike, begin dying or vanishing. As more strangeness occurs, Susie begins to realize that the school is run by a coven of evil witches.
Oh shit!
That's pretty good. That's
Pretty
exactly
basic.
right.
It's rare.
Although
It's
you
like
can't really
said,
get into how gruesome the deaths are.
Yeah.
Like Pat's death at the beginning is one of the more gruesome things. Like
What a setup!
it's a fantastic setup. Also, she gets stabbed from 18 different angles with 10 different hands that I don't know where they came from.
I love that. Like
And I was
Argento's like so Hitchcockian. He's like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna make it like the scene from Psycho, but I'm gonna make it the first 10 minutes, and it's gonna have like 8 times the angles, and it's gonna go fall through a window.
she's gonna get stabbed and she's gonna die
Yes.
from hanging.
And it's gonna be in this awesome set piece that looks like it's not from this world. And it's like fuck. But anyway, is there anything better than the first 20 minutes of this movie? It is mise en scène. It is fucking perfect. The music, the atmosphere, the acting, the rain,
And
everything.
I think that's it. I think that's part of it. Part of the reason this movie has endured, and part of the reason that we still talk about it as horror fans, is because the aesthetic is so
Mhm.
established, and it's so like primary colors that are super bright and primary. Like the fucking building is the reddest thing you've ever seen in a movie. You know what I mean? Except for Snow White's lips.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. Like it's just this weird like the aesthetic is so amazing, and the noise levels where the ambient noise is so creepy because you don't know. Like I don't know about you guys, but as you're rewatching it, like you think to yourself, my TV on the fritz? Like
Yeah.
is my has one of my subwoofers gone, or is it just Dario Argento?
It's just
fucking
Dario
with me?
Argento.
He's just fucking with me.
And this is a Goblin movie?
Yes,
Yes,
Goblin is
soundtrack,
the
yep.
music behind it.
Because he does that weird thing at the beginning when she's in that airport. We hear all this ambience of the
Yep.
airport, and then it cuts to the soundtrack, and you see the front
Well,
door
the two
of the
people in
airport.
red.
Doors.
There
It's
are
like when
two.
the doors are opening. Yeah.
Yeah, the two people in red. One goes out the first one goes out the right door, and it's a woman in red, and then there's another woman, a guy in red, who goes out the left door, and then it's just like I don't know what we're going for, but they disturbed me.
Yeah.
Right, and then it's raining so hard, and there's nobody else out at the airport. She's just by herself, even though the plane just got.
That's so
unloaded.
Argento, though.
Yeah,
Creating
it's
this,
very
emptiness.
creepy. I think one of the things that has to be talked about cinematography with regards to have the woods ever looked creepier?
No,
Ever, like
especially in the
just-
background. Which.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, and also, like, it looks like, and because when you start reading up on it, you understand what he's going for. That he's going for, fairy tale, right?
Yeah.
It's a fairy tale concept of like the German woods. You know what I mean? Where you're like, you start getting the idea that hey, maybe he's working on a totally different plane, and he sets everything up. And by the end of the whole movie's only an hour 30 minutes. It's like it goes by really quick, and you're just like, I don't know. One of the things I think is funny about horror films that I always bring up to everybody, the sheer level of stupidity that people have to be in horror films is so glorious. It's a gift to us. Because if that creepy guy is bringing me lunch every day or dinner every day, am I not checking it?
Yeah.
Am I not looking at the glass of wine that's like double a regular glass of wine, and then realizing that I'm not able to wake up?
You're on a restrictive diet, but it includes wine, so it's okay.
To help the blood.
Yeah.
To help the blood with the creepiest fucking doctor. Like that's the glorious thing about the movie is the archetypes are all these incredible, like they're all these glorious, Italian actors, and they're all playing these tropes. The doctor who looks like he's prescribing meds out of his truck.
Yep.
Or, the headmistress that's really tough. Like that sequence at the beginning when she passes the fuck out, and you're just like, I thought at first, like, as you're watching it, one of the things that comes up is like, is she controlling her? because
Mhm.
she's like going from one side of the room to the other and just kind of like twirling and dancing. They're all doing it. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's an early thing. And then she just collapses on the floor, and it's like, holy shit, it's not. It's just she's doing it like as if she's done these moves all of her life.
100%. Absolutely.
But Argento's fun, and like the concept behind it, the idea that he basically set up his trilogy of films, the Mother trilogy, and basically this is the first of what he was setting up, and the idea of taking a fairy tale, taking a specific place in the world that is, apparently the birthplace of all these wacky fairy tales, right? The corner, I guess, where it's Switzerland, Germany, and Italy all touch, like, just like the weird state one we have in the States, and just kind of taking all of the stories that have come from that and going, you know what? We haven't made a good witch movie yet.
Yeah. And something we really haven't brought up. This is kind of Argento veering off form. And I know people call this a giallo, but those are kind of idiots who don't really understand giallo as a whole. This movie is him going for something different. The giallo guy who's literally done fucking giallo his entire life, with the exception of the 5 days, was trying something different with a supernatural horror film with these witches, and he did 3 of them. Like JW said, it's a trilogy. The first 2 are great. I love the third one. I mean, the CGI
I think the third one's underrated.
It is.
One, the Tears is Mother of Tears is an underrated.
That opening dismembering sequence, like, come on.
For 2, but here's the thing. The other side of it is he took so long to do them.
Yeah,
right? Where he took. This one was made in 1977. The second one's in 1980. The third one's all the way in 2006.
Yeah,
around there. And it's just, it's one of those things where it's also interesting, the idea. I love the concept of fairy tales.
Yeah.
I love, like, one of my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movies, obviously, is New Nightmare, because of the fairy tale aspects of it. The idea that Freddy gets power, like the witch. From
in each movie, it's a different witch.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's sort of really cool when horror directors discover that our fairy tales are where the true monsters are, right? And here he happens upon a coven of witches, again played by the single creepiest cast. They're all so fucking creepy. The lady who carries the stick around is creepy. The guy who delivers the food is creepy, and we're told that he's had teeth implants. Like, it's just
the simpleton assistant is just the greatest stereotype ever. And Argento doesn't use it a lot, but he uses it great.
Igor. Yeah. He's essentially Igor. Pay no attention to him. Doesn't he look ugly?
He can't understand us anyway.
He only speaks Romanian. Like,
he got gingivitis, so he got all of his teeth pulled.
Yeah, it's just, and that's the thing. Like, I think the other thing about it is when you're reading those fairy tale books and you're looking at them, when you look at the illustrations, it's all bold color.
Yeah.
Right? So again, for stupid people, this is the scariest school I've ever seen in my life.
And I believe he went in after the fact and not digitally, but actually altered the film prints to enhance the color in certain
the red and the
sequences.
Green.
Yeah, particularly
in
the sequence when they're all in the like the gymnasium, and they're all laying there.
Yes, the sequence that Revenge of the Nerds stole.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly what I thought. Funny enough, I watched Revenge of the Nerds like a week ago before I watched this rewatch.
That's a whole other episode. It's like, can we still enjoy Revenge of the Nerds in the 2024 life? That's a whole other conversation.
I was waiting for a basketball to shoot over that curtain,
but yeah, the curtain. That's what I mean. Like, I think the most interesting thing is, like, my question is, whoever made Revenge of the Nerds, did they see this movie and go,
right?
Hey, what if we do the weird thing where all the people are sleeping in a room?
Yeah.
And it's just fucking like, and then the red light goes on. That's the other thing. These people in this school, it's like, they're the creepiest doors and windows I've ever seen. They're the creepiest lights I've ever seen. Like, even the fucking regular.
Well, the fact that Argento picked an outside location and then filmed it somewhere else, like on sets, to give it the illusion, because the sets are actually bigger than the location you see on outside. So it gives it that weird, like, kind of like the what is it, the TARDIS, where it's such a small box, but actually go inside and it's massive.
And actually, this ties into something I saw a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you're like, I know you've been watching the show, and I appreciate it. But I went to see Rear Window, and one of the things that comes up about Rear Window,
yes, that conversation,
right, where Rear Window, one of the things that comes up about Rear Window is that Hitchcock built an entire apartment set, on a back lot.
Yeah.
So it's an entire apartment set, and all the actors had earpieces, so he could tell them what to be doing on screen. And so it's that kind of set. The sets are elaborate, they're well designed. Like the set when she finally gets to the one door, and then she starts remembering, oh, the girl said turn the blue flower, and and you're just like, you're looking at the walls going, okay, where's the hidden door?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
And then and then it
look
takes
for those irises.
Gotta look for the irises.
That sounds like the Wes Anderson film when they built it was one on the boat, wasn't it? And the camera just pans through all the rooms.
Because the boat was too big, they actually had to go out of the soundstage to film the thing.
The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Yeah, but it's again, it's part of, like, I think it becomes part and parcel when these directors we have that are great directors.
Yes, our tours,
our tours, so to speak. They basically say, the world isn't good enough for what I want to do with this film, so I need to create the world that I want my audience to experience.
And, is that ever more evident in like the emptiness of the entire world this film is in? Like empty.
Everything's empty. Like the guy goes home at night. The blind piano player goes.
Dude, that's my favorite set piece. Can we talk about that? Okay, for one, just to give context, that is the same courtyard Adolf Hitler gave fucking speeches in, and witches are hanging out there at night. A blind guy with his fucking dog.
Of course the witches are hanging out there at night.
Yes, why not? Why not? And then it's completely empty. There's no lights except to light up these giant monolithic fucking buildings. And then you have... Are those like... What is he doing to get those witches effects? Is it just like a fucking cutout of a witch on a broom just going like across the fucking...
You know what? I was thinking it was like he's playing with the gargoyles. It's like later in the movie when he plays with there's one water pipe on the school that if I saw it, nobody would be allowed to go to that school in my family. There's a water pipe that has like a series of like clearly witch familiars. There's a cat, and then there's a frog, and then like fuck, it's clearly a coven. But that sequence is so that sequence is so disarming, because you're like, I know something's gonna happen to the guy. I don't know how they're gonna do it, and then like the puppy, they take advantage of the puppy.
They did him dirty by his own poor dog.
So I want to point out something. Have you guys realized that he reuses this and kind of makes it the ending of his last film?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Because I think it's one of those things where I think it's, every once in a while when you get a director who's like, I'd love to go back there someday. I don't know when I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get back there. Also, I think the interesting thing here is this is a 70s aesthetic that starts in the 60s, right? It starts with Rosemary's Baby, with like just how
that occult thing,
the occult thing, and like just the level of horror. We go from scary monster people like serial killers or whatever, or Frankenstein, The Thing, or whatever, and then we get into this thing with the occult, where your neighbors or the people you're going to school with or the teachers at your school are all more dangerous than anything you've ever encountered, right? And also the aesthetic is really amazing. Like if you think about the box, when this movie was playing, right, I was thinking about the box for Rosemary's Baby, right? The VHS box, the poster for Rosemary's Baby with that green palette behind the baby cart.
Yes, I know what you're getting at.
And I was thinking to myself, the palette of this movie and the palette of Rosemary's Baby and the palette of The Exorcist, the aesthetic of like the settings and making sure the settings are exactly what the directors want in their mind. When
you think he did it, channeled Polanski here?
Well, no, I don't think he channeled Polanski. I think it's one of those things, like sometimes when Hollywood makes 7 movies about volcanoes, and then you're like,
Yeah.
why do we have Dante's Peak and
Yeah,
why
what
do
is
we
that,
have Volcano?
97 where we got
Yeah, why do we
Volcano and
have
Dante's Peak?
these 2 movies? I think it's just one of those things where people get it in their head.
Yeah.
And I think, he's looking at Polanski, who's doing a specific color palette and a specific aesthetic. And then all of a sudden, you have the Exorcist and all these movies with specific color palettes and aesthetics. It ties a little bit also into Strange Darling. Strange Darling is shot on 35 millimeter film, and it looks like a 70s movie.
That's good stuff.
So I think it's an aesthetic that we've lost track of in the horror genre.
Yeah, or in cinema in general. Thanks, James Cameron.
You picked up
that man is so rich he can make his own aesthetic. He's so fucking rich. He's
I'm
like,
sorry, Paul brought up the aliens thing again.
You don't like aesthetic. I'm sorry, I'm so rich. You like the aesthetic.
Go back to your mother's basement. Your opinion is
well, yeah, that and he's fighting with directors now too. So it's like it's not just.
All I can say is I can't wait to see that ending sequence of Terminator scrubbed of film grain for that stop motion of the fucking Terminator chasing Sarah down the fucking hallway. It's gonna look awful, and I can't wait.
Well, one thing I want to talk about actually.
Yes.
So you normally ask me, TJ, did this movie meet your expectations? So did Suspiria meet my expectations? And the first time I ever watched it, no. So it's weird. So when I was a kid, I'm talking like probably early mid 80s. So I'd never even heard of Suspiria at the time. I was a kid. I went to a theme park with my dad, a local theme park, and there was a haunted house attraction called Captain Blood's Cavern.
Amazing.
And I remember one thing I remember vividly from this room, from this haunted house. There's a bit where you walk up and you look through a window, and there was a girl. You see the back of a girl, and she's got a makeup mirror, and it's like an animatronic thing, and she's like twiddling her hair like a flower in her hair. And you're watching it, and then suddenly the mirror in front of her lights up, and all you see is a skeleton face.
And
I was like, whoa, that was scary. And I always remember that as a kid because it scared me. And then years later, I saw the trailer for Suspiria. I presume it's the same trailer you guys got, where it's it's kind of like a teaser trailer. And again, it's the back. It's almost exactly as I remember it from the haunted house. It's like the back of a girl's head, flowers in her hair, twiddling her hair, and obviously little mirror turns around and her face is a skeleton. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what I saw as a little kid in a haunted house. I need to watch this movie. And of course, I watched the movie, and
there's no skeleton.
This had been on VHS.
Son of a bitch.
And that was not in there at all. And I was like, huh? And of course, I think I must have watched it. I must have been I must have been 18, 19, 20. So I was more into Freddy, Jason, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I watched it and I was like, what on earth am I watching? And where's the skeleton,
that first disappointment of a trailer not living up to expectations.
Yeah, it was a cool trailer as well.
I did all over again.
I did love the tagline in there. Like, the only thing more terrifying than the last 12 minutes of Suspiria is the first 92. A real cheesy, like, this film's gonna really scare you. But I didn't get it, and I think it was cut as well in the UK.
I think you lost 8 minutes. I was reading that because I was looking up because I know we were doing a show with a Brit. And I was like, I don't think he got the full movie. Because they when they brought it to the US, it's like, they'll watch anything.
Yeah. So I mean, like the iconic opening scene, I'm certain when Pat Hingle comes through the window and she gets stabbed, doesn't she? And then you see like an open heart and he's stabbing the heart.
And he's stabbing the heart, like he's jabbing a little heart.
I'm certain that bit was not in the version I saw for the first time as a teenager. I'm sure.
No, there's no way your government at that time would have been like, that's okay.
Yeah. That's cool.
I'm
The
sure,
Italians
yeah,
are ruining us.
it would have been cut
Also,
to
we
shreds
hate the
for us.
French.
But obviously, I read a lot about I remember seeing it on a fuzzy VHS and thinking, didn't have nothing like the trailer. But then you read about it in horror magazines, you keep reading about it. I'm like, I need to rewatch this. And then it comes out on DVD, everyone's raving about it. And then that's when my love for the film picked up, and Dario Argento in general. Although I will say my favorite film of his is still Phenomena. But
hot take, I love it.
Yeah. I think the thing about this movie is it may not grab you the first time you see it, right? Because we've been bombarded with everything that we've been bombarded with: Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, all these different things where we've been bombarded. But if you start thinking about all the like psychological thrillers we get, all these different things, it plays out in a really cool way. And then for me, the hook as I've gotten older is I love things that have like a fairy tale aspect to them, like the idea of leaving breadcrumbs to make sure you get home from the witch kind of thing. And I just think he does it better than almost anybody, where he gets, I'm telling you a story here, and it's not necessarily it's linear, but it's not necessarily, we're not going to give anything away until 3 minutes left in the movie, where everything kind of gets put on it. And that's very kind of like, that's very 70s, right? The big reveal at the end. One of the commenters I was looking, Castellar, Daniel Garcia, The Sentinel is another movie I'm a huge Sentinel fan with Chris Sarandon. It has very similar Argento vibes. And it was the movie that came out. It came out roughly the same year as The Exorcist. And it's one of those movies that has weird, it has a weird building and it has weird people in it. And they're all kind of doing weird orgy shit. And it's just, it's got the Catholic Church involved. And it's just a weird movie that kind of got banned in several cities in the United States. And then also,
Shout Factory has a disc.
It's got a bang-a-rang ending where you just go, that's a fucking horror movie ending. And this one does too. Although she kind of just walks out like, place is going to blow up. I'm good. I killed a witch. Everything's cool. Oh, sorry. Spoiler alert. We're 77 years. 77. We're way far away, but people get pissed on the internet these days. So spoiler alert. I always get yelled at on our shows. You have no idea how many times I get yelled at.
Homage to his first movie and that final set piece with the bird.
The crystal plumage. Yeah.
And also just.
And he even uses that as a weapon as well, doesn't she? She pulls out one of the feathers.
The plumage is what kills the witch, and I'm fairly confident it's like everything else. It's very similar. Again, like, I hate to talk about fairy tales so much, but it's like pushing the witch in the oven, right? She's decorating her room with a giant plumage bird that has all these knife edges on it. Also, this is a school where everybody who finds an edge hits it.
Yeah.
The lady, the poor lady that falls in the goddamn vat of, we have a pool, and we also have a pool full of razor wire.
Yeah.
Dude, that scene is so effective. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so, because she's so close. I think that the claustrophobic nature of the sequence, like, also, like, weren't you waiting for somebody to come to the door? But Argento's like, no, we're not going to do it.
Nope.
She's just going to struggle in the razor wire
until she bleeds out. Yeah.
Until she bleeds out from all her wounds. Right? Nobody's going to come to the door. Although
Jigsaw, eat your heart out. Argento did it better.
Well, I'll leave a light on under the door, so you think somebody's going to show up, like the guy who's chasing her in the other room. But no, she's just gonna make it a couple times with her fingernails towards the edge, and then
even dubbed, Stefania Cossi is such a good paranoid actress. Like, she pulls that off so well.
That whole sequence where she's like, "I just need you to stay awake.
Yeah,
wake up, wake up. I've been counting footsteps. Okay, crazy pants. There you go. You've been counting footsteps. I hit upon it when you said they were going right or left instead of right. It's like, holy shit, and I was trying to think of today as during the rewatch, because I usually do rewatches before anything we do on Generation Movie, or anytime we do the show, because it's very important to be in depth and be original with what we're seeing again. And with the rewatch today, what I was taking into account, I'm like, nobody's in everybody's gone to the Bolshoi Ballet, right? And they leave the most suspect person there, and she's like walking around looking for everything. Like, and then they're talking about her like, we need to put a curse on her. Like, she should get sick and die, right? And I'm sitting there going, why didn't you just send her to the Bolshoi?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, like I said, there's stupid people in horror films are what makes us so happy. So happy.
I mean, someone's got to push that
don't-
plot along.
Yeah, but by all means, don't leave the school that's super creepy where 3 people have just disappeared in the last 6 days. Don't leave. You need to learn the dance. That's important.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie. Like it's
So fun.
but it's something where you if you see it early, you may come out of it like, because we used to do at the theater I ran in Pennsylvania, we used to do screenings, and every once in a while we do like a classic movie, like a really big classic movie with this guy named Blake, who was working with different Blu-ray factory things, and like it's one of the movies I think we showed, and I don't know that everybody gets it.
Yeah.
But when you see it on a big screen and you're watching it, and then all of a sudden it's like all the pieces fall into place for you, and you're like, oh, apparently I like Italian horror.
Yeah.
Who knew?
It's probably the easiest entry point into Italian horror because it's just a good
vibes.
movie. It's a good movie in general, not
Short
just
as
a good
well.
horror movie. It's a good movie. So I think that it's easier for people who are just normal, casual popcorn viewers to watch something like this. And like you said, oh my God, I like Italian horror movies,
And,
Yeah, so
and then, go ahead. I'm sorry, Paul. You
I
first.
said, like I said, the first time I watched it, I didn't get it at all. But I was going off the trailer, and I was young. I was a teenager,
And you were
or
damn
20s.
disappointed you didn't get your skeleton.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Son of a bitch.
I didn't know what to expect, and that was it. But now I watch it now, and it's just like, this isn't classic. This is so different. Every time I watch it, I'll notice something different, or you'll pick up something different from it. It's just so out there and bizarre.
Well,
it's just so different to any film.
Right. And the other thing is, like, the only, like, it, and this is one of those movies where, it's so respected. You don't see copies, right? You see things that are on the peripheral, right? Like something like a Black Swan, right?
Yeah.
Or the remake, which is on a peripheral. Even the remake is on a peripheral because it doesn't want to get involved, right? It doesn't want to go, are you doing a direct remake of Suspiria? No, it just pays homage. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good. We don't want to fuck around, right? But it's
body contortion.
Well, that's what we're gonna pay homage. Like the fine line reboots have to make, right? Where they are you doing a direct remake? No.
Are we going to make it about an hour too long? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because we know what our audience wants. Dakota Johnson half naked.
Yes.
For 2 hours and at least 20 minutes. But yeah, I think, it's one of those movies that doesn't get remade. It's not something where people are trying to copy it because it's like, I shouldn't copy that because it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can pull that off.
It's like trying to remake Citizen Kane or something like that.
And
it's
trying to remake the mirror sequence.
Yeah. It exists in its own corner of cinema that this exists and don't touch it.
Citizen Kane is a great thing. That's one of the first film classes I had in college.
Have you watched The Trial?
What's the
Orson Welles' The Trial with
no
Anthony Perkins?
No.
Orson Welles considered that his best film and not
Citizen Orson Welles kind of went nuts near the end, so I don't really I try not to say.
Well, the great thing about that movie is you don't know what Anthony Perkins did. You just know that he's on the run.
Well, does it involve running a hotel?
No.
I'm just asking. Because Anthony Perkins never escaped that role. Like once he got into Psycho, he never escaped that role. Like I think there was an AT&T commercial with him playing Norman Bates, in the late '80s that I remember. And you're like, that's why AT&T went out of business. And
Tarzan.
it was like Ma Bell. Like, what the fuck?
What was that Jekyll and Hyde one he did? I always thought that was good.
Oh, that was a
Anthony
weird one
Perkins.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a fun. It was like a psychosexual thing.
Yeah, that's
it was
right.
like it was like a lot of nudity. Was it
Mhm.
Crimes of the Heart? Maybe Crimes of the Night Crime.
Oh, no, what was it called? I can't remember what the heck it was called.
I have a movie called Edge of Sanity. Isn't
Edge
he
of
in
Sanity. That's it.
Edge of Sanity. That's it.
What it is then.
The one I was thinking of was Crimes of Passion, where it's Anthony Perkins late in his life playing somebody who frequents a hooker, and you're just like, of course you would frequent a hooker.
Yeah, the gay man should really pull this off.
That makes perfect sense. I will say his son is doing
long legs.
Osgood Perkins, my friends.
Yes.
If you don't know a lot about him, he's made like 3 or 4 movies, and they're all pretty.
His dad was a really good director too. People don't talk about Psycho 3 enough. I mean, it is the gayest Psycho movie, but the guy was fucking gay. He was taking all of his sexual
That's a hot take. That is a hot take.
I mean,
for the sheer volume of blondes that he killed, that's a hot take.
That scene when that guy's like half naked and the lamp and all that stuff. I mean, come on, man. And that has one of the best transitions I've ever seen in a movie. When you see the underneath of the door, and then that transitions to the knife blade. Oh,
it's a very good transition.
It's so good.
Yeah, but so I mean, I think the interesting thing is that when you get a horror director, like I was trying to think of with talking to you guys today about other horror directors that have specific looks, have specific aesthetic,
or even are in the Hitchcockian vein, like Argento.
Well, Hitchcock's one of them. Polanski's one of them.
Well, right? I see there's Hitchcock, and then there's people that spiral off, like Argento and Richard Franklin. Like those are probably the biggest Hitchcockian dudes. Fair. So it all comes from they study Hitchcock.
The Hitchcock tree.
Yeah, essentially that's how you would see it.
Brian De Palma's been trying to make
Brian De Palma is in that with Argento and Richard Franklin. You know what I mean?
But I was trying to think of ones that have aesthetics that are building their aesthetic now. That the 3 of us are on the ground floor, right?
Ooh,
because we're not on the ground.
What modern director's doing something like this other than
Robert
Wes
Eggers
Anderson?
is the one I was.
Wes Anderson, yeah.
Wes Anderson, yes, right there. You know what you're getting in a Wes Anderson film. Somebody's going to cut a pinky toe off for some reason.
What is another good director? We're going to get
Eggers.
We're going to get feet with Tarantino. Yes.
Robert Eggers is creating his own worldview. Right.
That's a good question. What modern director could you watch and be like, "Yep, that's his film"?
Fincher.
It's
David Fincher's up there, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Because you can watch Fincher stuff and go, yeah, I know how.
Boy, is that clean and minimalist.
Right. Well, and also like
Nolan.
No, Christopher Nolan, of course.
Tarantino's obvious.
Yeah, like I said, as soon as feet come into the.
I think Tarantino's too obvious, and also Tarantino. And this pains me to say this, but Tarantino, they're not as fun as they used to be, right? They're just they're kind of they're hip to be hip. And they're not necessarily as fulfilling as his earlier work.
Do you think he knows too much now?
too many movies?
He's become the perfect version of himself. He's in his final form. So he's just too much of a movie guy. And when he makes a movie like this, the perfect version of a movie for himself. And then we're not movie fans enough to understand it.
Well, I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is pretty good.
But that's a movie that you have to watch 30 fucking times to understand the jokes.
To get it, yeah.
Because it's so layered.
That's what I mean. I think part of it is. I think he's become so hip that he's I think he's much more comfortable going on late night talk shows now and talking about what movies are getting him off.
Oh, David Lynch.
Lynch is but we're not going to get any more Lynch.
I know.
Why
did you have to remind me of the emphysema thing?
The saddest story of the summer. One of the saddest stories of the summer. But I think. These aesthetics, and it starts with Argento's one of the directors that I think American directors look at and go, if he can do it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. If he creates his own world,
did he start the trend with I'm gonna do it with Goblin, and did he do that, or is that kind of George Lucas and John Williams and Spielberg and stuff?
Wasn't this the film they I read that Goblin, the band, they weren't called Goblin, but they changed it to Goblin because of this film.
Because if you look at the credits, it's Goblin and Dario Argento, correct? Or Goblin featuring Dario Argento?
It's just Goblin and Dario Argento. There's no and or anything.
Okay. They were called something
and
else.
I think part of it is, one of the things you always hear about is that the musical score was already, like, they did musical scores before the movies were done.
Well, that's weird.
And that's
Phenomena's like that too. It's kind of just like insert rock song.
And Morricone, right? Ennio Morricone.
Those first the Annibal trilogy. Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of a weird way of doing it, but they did do the Goblin score has been used other places, which is kind of
that's
in
the thing is
Hong Kong filmmaking. So there's another filmmaker that doesn't get a lot of press.
Hey, did you notice the Carrie music in Beetlejuice?
I'm sorry?
Did you notice the Carrie music in Beetlejuice?
The ring? Yes. The thing about Beetlejuice that I think is I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it 3 times. Trying to follow rules. I think the interesting thing about Beetlejuice, the only review I have on it, all the background stuff is great. All the in-jokes are great. All the jokes they make from the first movie are great. What isn't great is the structure, right? The structure for me doesn't work because the first movie is very simple. It's a basic structure. It's 2 people who have died who don't understand what's happening to them. And then he is brought in as an agent of chaos, right? He is, if people forget, he doesn't appear for the first 45
My
minutes.
favorite review is Try Hard Cash Grab should have been in Hawaii.
That's because one of the scripts was Beetlejuice goes Hawaiian. But even that, like, what I would also say is if you've seen the Beetlejuice cartoon show, it's more in line with that. The movie is more in line with that. Okay. In that the idea that they produced a weekly TV show for kids,
which is on Tubi, by the way, and
with Pluto. A dead demon hanging out with a 13-year-old for kids. Because again, we're American.
Yeah, Jenny Ortega's 13.
We're amazing. But the cartoon show, it's more like the cartoon show because for me, one of the things, the structural problem with it is that Beetlejuice appears the first 45 minutes of the first one, and this one he's all over the place. So it.
Yeah. Okay. It's like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees.
Yes, totally I want less. I don't want to see.
You hear that, folks? You hear that? Less Jason's better.
Well, I also don't want Jason to have a backstory. I don't want these wacky backstories we're creating for.
Yeah. Well, there's only one explanation. Jason's a Deadite. So
that's perfectly fine for me. Okay. Because you know how much I love the fact that there's the book. The Evil Dead book is in Jason Goes to Hell. Yeah. You know how much I love that.
It's like,
I told the first time we met, Paul, the first time we met, I didn't know he had done a documentary on it. And I'm like, yeah, because fuck me. Anyway, because I don't know shit. But the first time we're talking about it, I'm like, I love the background stuff. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I like the fact that the Creepshow box is there.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the Book of the Dead is there. And he's like, I did a documentary about Jason Goes to Hell, and I'm like, I did not know that. No. And I was like, but just so you know, I respected the fact that those things they were important to me.
Yes.
Like I don't really like the movie is fun.
It is the first shared horror universe to ever exist.
Yes, and for me it was like I was the 18-year-old kid when Jason Goes to Hell goes out that was sitting in the front row going, that's the Book of the Dead. As people were like, shut up, and I was just like, I don't care. That's
Did you watch the Adam Savage episode of Tested where he actually held the Jason Goes to Hell prop recently?
No.
Yes. It's technically the Army of Darkness / Jason Goes to Hell prop, but he holds it and goes through it. Adam does. So it's really, really cool. Okay. Let's rate Suspiria. We got way off, but hey,
sorry, we're tangent people.
We are tangent people. Yeah. So we're gonna rate.
I don't think Paul is. I think Paul has a nice set list of things he's doing.
If you get Paul talking about little rubber monsters, that boy will go for days. So, as a movie, not as a horror movie, as a movie, how are we going to rate Suspiria? JW, you are our guest. Out of 5, what are we giving it?
I'm going 4.5 because I think it works as a perfect kind of like, it works as a movie about a girl going to a boarding school first, and then as the wheels start coming off and you realize you're in the middle of a horror film,
Yeah,
that's kind of just like a nice whipped cream on top with a cherry. Right, it works because like the people in boarding school movies are fucking weird. Like every single one of them, they're all like, "Oh, you're the new person? Yeah, I'll let you share my shoes for $15." Like, no, I have my own shoes. I don't need your shoes. I just need them for today. Right? So they're always weird, and I think that does a good setup. I think Jessica Harper I think it's interesting. She's older, but she's playing the wide-eyed naif, right? Yeah. And she's the wide-eyed naif going into this clearly devastatingly evil school.
Yeah.
And I think it works. But once they add all the horror elements, like once you get a really cool death here and there, it kind of goes from 4.5 to 5 when it's a horror film. Regular movie for regular folks, you go 4.5. But for horror fans, it's something that has to be seen.
It's top tier shit.
It's top level stuff, and it's clearly stuff that the people you like right now have seen.
James Wan, Malignant. He was like,
they've clearly seen these movies.
Yep.
And so if you like these movies, and that's what we do on our show. What I do in Generation Movie is, hey, you like this movie? That's great. This is the movies that spawned out of it. You know what I mean? And we do that every week, and it's just, once you start tying things together, it becomes like that sequence in Brilliant Mind where all the pieces are like in your mind, and this is one of the ones that's essential to the school horror film. Like the movies that are set at schools. Like the one I was thinking of coming out of it today, because again, I do everything Generation Movie-ish in my head. And the one I was coming out of today was like The Faculty, right? Like, do you know what I mean? Like the idea that, the school as a place for horror, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Right?
You just go to college.
Both. The kids in American Films, Paul, are old enough to be in college. They're all in their 30s, and they're doing kid horror films.
Nothing scarier than Josh Hartnett's haircut in The Faculty.
But even something like the other pragmatic American thing that you could look at right now that has the giallo vibe, has the Argento vibe, is Stranger Things, right? Like, it's, you know what I mean, like
aesthetic-wise,
the aesthetics, right? And I just think,
so much has us Argento vibes aesthetic-wise these days.
Saying Stranger Things.
Look at Gaspar Noé's work. Like, it is so fucking, like, lighting-wise, aesthetic-wise.
Well, Osgood Perkins too.
Like, Stranger Things is giallo. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying it has an aesthetic.
Wise, it takes
it has an aesthetic.
Yeah. It takes
I'm not saying it's as good as any giallo. I'm just saying it's. Let's not get out of hand.
I mean, they could have picked a Megadeth song instead of Metallica, but
I'm just visiting. Let's not cause any controversy.
Well, I just started there.
But like I said, I think, it's one of those movies that you can watch it later in life and see all the things that came out of it.
100%.
You know what I mean? Color wise, vibrant colors of like an evil coven is kind of another way to look at it. I'll go 4.5 regular movie, 5 if you're a horror fan.
Awesome. Paul, what do you think, pal?
It's got to be 5 out of 5 maggots out of 5 maggots for me.
100%.
Easy. I mean, I did say obviously the first time didn't live up to expectations, but put that aside, this is just an incredible film.
And it's your second favorite Argento film?
Yeah, second favorite. I mean, it's probably a better film than Phenomena, but for me, Phenomena was just.
You can't beat that final sequence.
I watched Phenomena. It was called Creepers. It was called Creepers in the UK for some reason. But it was one of those films I tracked down.
And that's one of 3 cuts that exist of that movie.
Yeah, I loved the cover of it, and had the amazing artwork on it. And yeah, for me, I clicked with that film straight away. Plus, it's Jennifer Connelly, all that good stuff. But Suspiria is just the art house. Well, it's not art house, but it's like the real arty. You watch it now, it's incredible. The colors are amazing. The music's amazing. The set pieces are amazing. The cinematography is amazing. It's
And the last
super weird.
Technicolor movie,
it's like really weird. There's there's
Mm.
plot holes, but they're just weird, and it's like, it's Dario Argento. He can do that and get away
Can
with
there
it.
be plot holes in A Nightmare?
Is it a nightmare?
I think all Argento films are within the frame of a nightmare. Explain
Oh,
the
that's
emptiness.
interesting. That like a Nightmare Fairy Tale. That's
Yeah.
where you're.
Because if you
going with?
watch Tenebrae, you watch Phenomena, these are empty worlds that these characters are operating within. And yes, he always implies that some sort of Armageddon happened, but I think it just amplifies the atmosphere in which his stories operate in. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Well, that would explain why nobody's at the airport.
Exactly.
Because we've all had that dream. Like, why are they at the fucking airport?
Well, lights are red at the airport when she comes out of the terminal. Yeah.
I consider this to be one of the best films, period, of all
It's a
time,
nightmare,
especially
though.
the first 20 minutes.
If it's a nightmare, why is there a McDonald's outside the airport?
That is in everyone's dreams.
That's just so we're clear. That's a perfectly acceptable
Yeah,
version of McDonald's food.
If I'm gonna
It's a
die and
nightmare.
not get a basket of fries, I don't know what fucking version of heaven that is. But
You guys have Big Macs in the UK, or is it like some sort of weird?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay, it's not like a Royale with cheese. No.
No.
Sorry, that was just me being a total movie nerd.
Yes. Hey, at least
but I'm quick. I'm
Tarantino
snappy,
got it.
Paul.
Yes.
I'm snappy.
But yeah, Suspiria, I think, is just one of the best movies in general. Like I said, especially the first 20 minutes. I love it. It's up there in the first top 5 Argento movies for me.
It's a gateway drug movie too.
So
it's a
yeah,
gateway drug too.
It honestly started my love for Argento because I watched Suspiria, and then it kind of spiraled out of control. I own 95% of his films that he's made on disc.
What's your favorite Argento then? Because it's not Suspiria.
It's not Suspiria. You ever watch Sleepless?
Nope.
The Dwarf Killer? I love that movie. I don't know what
that is right up your alley, my friend.
It is so
that
cool.
Is perfect for you. And in the few meetings we've had, that is the most perfect thing for you. That is perfect.
I never hear anybody talk about Sleepless, but it's Sleepless, Suspiria.
I enjoy the Demons and Demons 2 movie. Like,
yes,
I think they're gateway. Like, they're all gateway drugs to them. And once you get into them, it's like,
yeah, right. Because then you go to Lamberto Bava, and then you're just like, who the fuck's this guy? And you're like, Demons 2. What the fuck is this? What's the one that just came out with the eyeball lady that I just bought? Fuck. Well, that's not all Miss.
Oh, Absurd.
Yeah, Absurd. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just like all these things. Italian horror, Italian like macaroni westerns, all of that stuff. Polizio Teschi films, those are great.
Macaroni westerns?
That's
Spaghetti
what I call
westerns. Spaghetti westerns. Macaroni westerns. Get the fuck out of here. Also, again, the person who said The Sentinel.
Yes.
The Sentinel is a fantastic.
And it came out in 1977, so that's just a whole other thing of
same aesthetic. It's got a same color palette and same weird shit going on in a building, which again is any general movie really.
That would be a fun topic.
There's weird shit in a building happening somewhere, and somebody's stupid and goes, I don't know, but it's got a bang-a-ring ending. Like this one. The ending of this one is really great, like, because I didn't think she was gonna, like, when you're rewatching it, you're like, she makes it out, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
It's like a happy ending.
It is a happy ending. Snow White kills
Fairy
the
tale
witch.
ending, like, there you go.
Yeah, Snow White kills the witch, and she gets McDonald's on her way home.
And people bitch about the end of Mother of Tears. We get a weird, like, special effect here with the outline of the invisible witch here. So you know what? It's all on par. So fuck you guys.
Did the creepy kid die in this? I don't think it shows.
We don't see him after the dog attack.
You don't see him after the dog attack, but I think isn't he in the montage?
No, we do see him because he spots the.
He's in the room.
Harper,
yes,
he's in the room at the end.
He spots her when she's hiding, when she
burns up.
He might be on the ground. I was trying to figure out all the people that are on top of each other in that piled mess that she passes as the school is cracking apart because she's killed the coven leader who has emphysema and got terrible skin.
Like, do you see she was actually played by a 90-year-old prostitute? It wasn't even an actress.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Right, Dora, you just chose her out. You just say
It's like you off the street right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You.
Can you imagine Argento with that haircut of his at this time?
Yeah.
Just like running up.
You look like you've lived a life. How do you feel about playing a coven leader?
Oh fuck!
It was gruesome how the German Jaws guy died.
Yeah.
He's in the group at the end. He's just out of all of them there, he's like covered.
He's
in
the
blood
one you can see because he has the teeth.
Yeah, yeah, the teeth.
Because he's smiling, and it's like he's smiling, but he's
Pavlov. That's his name. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the deaths in this movie are pretty cool too. Like that's for horror fans. I think a proper use of a blade, a proper use of a noose.
Well, he just took what he did from like being the master of Giallo films and was just like
a proper use of a razor blade room.
Yeah,
a razor wire room.
Yeah. It's like oh, that was gruesome. You can't top that. But
then the living dead girl at the end.
She comes back at the end, doesn't she? With like needles in her eyes.
Well, actually, she comes back with the needles in her eyes, and also that one sequence where Harper's looking at her, and she's like, "I don't know what the fuck they're doing to her," but she's got like giant pikes through her.
Oh yeah, she's like pinned to the table.
Yeah, pinned to the thing with like these giant metal pikes, and I'm like, "There's something you don't see every day." There's something you don't see every day.
Him and his fucking visuals. Like the fucking church. You ever watched The Church? Oh yeah. There's some disturbing shit in there. I love it. I love that movie.
I want to come back on when you guys do Prince of Darkness.
Yes.
Arguably the most underrated John Carpenter film ever made.
That is a good one.
Ahead of its time.
That's Sam Neill in it, right?
No.
No, what's one am I thinking of?
The Sam Neill is in the
Mouth of Madness. That's
in
right.
the Mouth of Madness.
In the Mouth of Madness.
Prince of Darkness is Donald Pleasance.
Donald Pleasance, that's right.
It's Donald Pleasance and Alice Cooper.
Yes.
And a bunch of people that you reckon, like one of the guys is from Simon and Simon. And basically they go to a church where they have the Prince of Darkness underground, and it's all right before the apocalypse is going to happen. It has wave technology is brought up early. Like it came out in 85, 86. Yeah. Wave technology, videotapes.
That's part of a trilogy, right?
Yeah, it's a weird fucking movie, and it's one of those movies when you watch it, you're like, he's doing a lot of stuff, like, and it's ahead of its time. And again, the creepiest thing about the monster in the basement is that it's a big bottle of green goo.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, I can't take this seriously. But then as you rewatch it again and again, I think I've watched it at least 25 times, where you just watch it now and you're like, he was doing something different.
Yeah, it's just Ivan knew this.
And it just like, oh, he was ahead of it. And like, and then if you're a movie critic, like the three of us, you're like, I want to be ahead of this.
Yeah.
Right. So you're like, I'm going to find a way to mention it every chance I get. Because then if you're ahead of it, like, oh, that was the smart guy that came up with that. I did rewatch Prince of Darkness. It was better than I expected it to be. I'm so sorry that you got disappointed by a trailer, though. We've all been there, my friend.
Yeah.
Fuck those trailers.
The trailer was just so different to the actual movie. But that's not the only trailer. That's because there's other trailers out there for it. But that's just the one I saw, and it just because of that whole haunted house thing.
But we've all been there with trailers that do not get the movies.
Makes you wonder.
Scenes in where you're like,
whoever
what
did
the
that
fuck?
haunted house?
Rogue One.
Whoever made that haunted house in the UK, did they base it on that trailer from Suspiria? It must have.
Because was it a famous haunted house or a famous?
It was a theme park. It's a theme park still there today, but the haunted house.
Goddamn right.
So
we had one of those. We had one of those in PA. There's a place called Knoebels. Where I'm from Scranton, right? So I grew up in Scranton.
Other side of me.
Yeah, Scranton, Knoebels Amusement Park, right? And it's this park. It still has its haunted house, and it's a rite of passage for kids because it's a riding ride. You ride in like a little cart, and it just takes you around and scares the shit out of you.
Yeah.
With like lights and whatever, and but it's one of those terrifying things when you see as a kid, and you're like, when you get older, you're like, that ain't shit. Like what? How was I scared at that?
Yeah.
And then you look over and your 8-year-old nephew is like cowering in the corner and going, I never want to go on that again. And you're like, that's how they did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking about when you were talking about it. Like, that's cool.
But yeah, I'm sure someone must have watched that trailer and go, hey, we could make a thing on that, and they've just stuck it in there. So
we don't know what it's about. We're just trying to make a trailer so that the Brits want to see it.
Yeah.
show them the girl turning around to like the skeleton face. That'll work.
Yeah.
Some guy somewhere is like, but also you should look into it, because I bet you it's something better than that. Like, I bet you it's somebody that made a trailer for UK that grew up at going to the same fucking theme park you went to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I bet you it's a much better story than, like, you could look it up and be like, did you go to that theme park? Did you already turn it around? And you're gonna find out that it's the truth. That's what happened. I always love those.
Yeah.
So I think that's all we have to say about 1977 Suspiria. So next episode, we are going to do our normal batch of news like Paul and I do every other week. But after that, we are going to review 1991's Drop Dead Fred. One of my favorites, Rick Mahal, strongest performance in my opinion. That's not Guest House Paradiso. Fucking A. But I'm excited to talk about that film. I'm excited that these boys were able to join me today. Thank you for everyone who tuned in for this episode of Celluloid Psychosis. I am your host, TJ Bowser. That's John Wayne. That's Paul Ashford. And I'll see you guys.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Before you
Thanks for
finish
coming on.
your spiel, thank you for